Good afternoon, all of you. Today, I will discuss how to report a synopsis because many times I have seen that many scholars they could not figure out how they can report a synopsis. And in many universities, there are some formats available for the scholars, but in many universities there is no such format available, and the scholars, the particularly the research scholars, can report synopsis by their own means without following any standard format. So to look at this problem, I thought that I should make a video on particular on this issue, that is how to report a synopsis. And this is basically I designed for the scholars, those who are doing research in management, and it is also applicable for the scholars those who also doing research in the domain of social science. So, how you report a synopsis? So, you can see that I have created a flow chart that first is introduction, then literature review, research methodology, then data analysis and discussion. So, let's start with the introduction. And before introduction, you can also report the abstract. So in introduction, you need to very fast, you need to talk about the background of your study. Background means you just give a brief idea or the thought about your concept. If you are doing research on employee engagement and in a particular industry, then you have to give background about this concept, that is employee engagement. First, you can very fast you can start with that, what exactly the employee engagement is, how this employee engagement is important for a organization, and to why it is important for the academic perspective and from the practice perspective. And then you can talk about the employee engagement in a particular industry you want to study. So in this way you can give a background of your concept or the phenomenon you want to study. Then next is research gap. You can report the research gap because many times scholars thought that, and the guide of the scholar educate them that first you do the literature review and you identify the research gap. No, that is the means very old method, and there is no such rules that you just write down or you just report your research gap after literature review. So you can also report your research gap in introduction as well. And to identify the research gap in background, you can do a lot of literature review, because until unless you don't do literature review, then you could not find a solid research gap. After research gap, or in many cases the guide told scholars that you should also report the problem statement. Basically you can report both research gap and research problem. If you are doing something, let's say action research, or in a for a particular example policy research, There you can add the problem statement, what exactly the problem is associated with your concept, or the, you can say that the policy, or the, the particular problem you want to take action. So there you can add the problem statement. Then based on the research gap, you can build your research questions. These are the very central questions that need to be answered by this particular, piece of research. And this research question should be very very specific, and it should not be uh, it should not talk about, beyond the research gap. It must be, confined with the research gap. Then after research questions, you can report, or you can formulate the aim of the study based on the research questions. Basically, how you are going to answer these research questions, what exactly your aim of the study means, how your uh, basically aim of the study is also known as objective of the study. And your objective is how you are going to answer this research question, and this research, and by answering this research questions, ultimately you fulfill the research gap. So in introduction, this uh, four elements is very very important, and you need to report these four elements. Then come down to literature review. And here I have seen that many scholars, they never, talk about theory, or they never, report theory. What they do, they simply write about the, the concept they want to study, and the let's say, the problem they want to study. They talk about the, related, concepts to their, main concept. But this is not the way that, you can report your literature review. Basically, if you are doing a quantitative research, then first you must talk about the theory, because without a theory you cannot grounded your research. Or in simple terms, without theory, if you are doing research, it is like that, without knowing recipe you are cooking. So theory is must, and in whatever, the concept you want to study, that should be backed by a theory. If in case, a particular, a solid theory is not available for that concept, then you can substantially cite the literatures that is available to that concept, or the problem you want to solve. Then next is, if you are doing quantitative research, then you need to identify the constructs or the variables of your study. And here you operationally define the construction variables very clearly with proper citations. If you are using a model, like, theoretical model, from there only also you can uh, define your constructs. If, your theory is like a, very means it's a supportive theory, it cannot be directly, tested in your research. Then you can identify the constructs beyond your, theory. But if it is model, then there, there must be, some constructs is there. Then after defining your, construct operationally with lots of literature, then you move to hypothesis of the study. If it is quantitative study, then you may go for the hypothesis. If it is qualitative, you may go for the propositions. In hypothesis of the study, the basic uh, job here is to you connect your constructs, means you establish the relationship between construct. Construct means basically the dependent and independent constructs. And you need to give a clear conceptual background to your hypothesis. Means if you want to connect, let's say, employee engagement and let's say job satisfaction, then you must substantially cited the literature, or give a background, or you need to link the theory you have used to the hypothesis. For example, let's say, I will say that this that employee engagement leads to uh, your job satisfaction. Then you must support this statement with the literature. That is the scientific way you can develop the hypothesis. And it is very very right if you develop the hypothesis during your literature review. And I have seen that many scholars, they develop hypothesis after literature review, or they just simply write down the hypothesis. That is not the right way. If you are doing quantitative research, and if you are formulating hypothesis, then you must do it with within your literature review. And based on this hypothesis, you can also propose a conceptual framework or conceptual model. If your aim is to test a particular model, a hypothesis, then definitely will propose a conceptual model. And if you are doing qualitative research, then you can give a conceptual framework. Means how these constructs are related, and how this the means the phenomenon can be studied or addressed. You can give a conceptual framework out of that. So in literature review, you must address this, what theory you are using, what are the constructs of the variables, hypothesis of the study, conceptual background. Then move to research methodology. Here it's very important that many scholars, they poorly retain about the research methodology. And there is a misconception that research methodology uh, and data analysis can be reported together, but this is also a myth. You need to clearly differentiate the research methodology part and data analysis part. In research methodology, basically what we do, that we write down everything about what kind of study design you study design you adopted, how you are going to collect the data, right? So if it is quantitative data, then if you are in the quantitative research, then you must collect data through by doing large sampling, by using questionnaire. If it is qualitative research, then you may go for the interview or the focus group discussion, or content analysis of social media, whatever. So in the very first thing you need to report in synopsis is study design. What kind of study design you follow, whether it is a cross sectional study, you need to write about cross sectional study. Then if it is longitudinal study, definitely you need to write it is a longitudinal study. What is the significance of the longitudinal study, why longitudinal study is important for your research. If it is experimental design, then you have to justify why it is experimental design, and what exactly the advantage you will get when you adopt this experimental research design. And in this you can also report what kind of exploratory research, explanatory research, or descriptive research. Everything you write down in your study design. Then the next very important aspect is sample. If you are doing quantitative research or qualitative research, in both you required sample. Even up in systematic literature review, you do sample, means you require sample, means sample of research papers. So sample, when I am talking about sample, this is very relevant for the quantitative research and also in qualitative research. But in quantitative research, you gathered data from the large sample, where in qualitative research you operate within the limited sample. So sample here, what you can do, you just define your population, means from which you are going to draw your sample. What kind of sampling technique you will use to draw that sample, whether it is a probabilistic sampling or it is a non-probabilistic sampling. You need to also mention the sample unit, and many of times the scholars forget about to write about sample unit. Why? Because if defining sample unit also is very important, because sample unit means the, that is, you can, in other word you can say that is the unit of analysis. If you are doing a research on employee engagement in, let's say, in retail industry, again you need to define who is the sample unit, means from whom you are exactly collecting data. For example, let's say if you want to know that job satisfaction of let's say uh, low level of employees, then your sample unit is the low level employees. Might be the store manager, might be the executive, store executives, those who are directly dealing with the customers. If let's say you want to do a research on servant leadership, then here your sample unit must be the higher level of management, because leadership, the concept is associated with the higher level of management. So your unit of sample unit will be the higher level managers, might be CEO, chief executive officer, or the directors, board of directors. So you need to define what exactly the sample unit is. Then you also mention the time period you collected your sample, and how you are going to approach the unit or the sample unit while you collecting data. And very importantly, you need to report what instrument you are used to collect the sample, whether it is a questionnaire or whether it is a schedule. If you are doing qualitative research, then you must have a interview schedule. So these are very important things you need to keep in your mind while reporting sample and sample method. Then you must write about the data collection procedure, means whatever I have told you, that how you are going to collect data, right? If let's say someone is doing a research on consumer behavior in a retail store, inside a retail store, then he or she must be use let's say mall intercept method. Then there you write down how you stop the people, what questions you ask them, how you are collect data from them through whether you are used a paper based questionnaire, or whether you use let's say tab to collect the data. Everything you need to clearly write down the data collection procedure. Next, which tools used for the data analysis. It is very important, before you go for the data analysis in research methodology part, you must write about, what are the tools you used. For example, uh, if you want to predict something, if your aim of the research is to predict something, or you want to know, what are the impact of some factors on a particular factor, then you must go for the, let's say, regression or structural equation modeling. If you want to explore some factors, like, through a qualitative research, then you may go for the in-depth interview, or maybe, semi-structured interview, or maybe like, in like focus group discussion. So uh, so if you are doing qualitative research, then you may go for the, let's say, interview, semi-structured interview, or in-depth interview, or the, let's say, focus group discussion. And you use data analysis techniques like, your, proofreading, then verbatim transcription, then you use content analysis for the qualitative data analysis. Again, it's a kind of, different types of approach if you are doing qualitative research, and it is different for the quantitative research. So you need to clearly mention what are the tools and techniques you are going to use for the data analysis. Then come to the data analysis. Here you need to report all the, data analysis outcome. Basically, if you are doing a research, on consumer behavior, or any kind of, research where, your target audience are the individuals, then there you can report the demographic analysis, or the socioeconomic analysis of your respondents, or your sample. Then next is validity and reliability. You must report the validity and reliability irrespective of research, like qualitative or quantitative. If you are doing quantitative research, then you can report, validity, like, let's say, average variance extracted, then that is convergent validity, discriminant validity. In reliability, you can report conback alpha, composite reliability. If it is qualitative research, then you must, report the external validity and internal validity also, like, inter code agreement. Yeah, that you can use in qualitative research. Then if you are doing, quantitative research, then you must test your conceptual model, or in other words, you must test your hypothesis. There are, many, statistical tools, or, techniques available to the test the hypothesis, and it depends the types of hypothesis you are dealing in your research. T test, Z test, ANOVA, all are the tools used for the, let's say, hypothesis testing. And if you are doing qualitative research, and in qualitative research, if your aim is to, build a model, or link the inter you know in connectivity between the constructs, you can either, go for the model building. But if quantitative research, you must report your model testing or hypothesis testing. Then after data analysis, you directly go for the discussion. Here In discussions you need to report four things, very very important. First one is findings of the study. What exactly the findings of the study? If it is quantitative research and you are dealing with hypothesis, then you must report the results of this hypothesis. That is called findings. And if it is exploratory research, qualitative research, you want to explore some factors, then you must report all the factors you explore and elaborate it in detail. Then after findings you go for the implications, and it is very important for the management research scholars that they should report both, means theoretical implications and practical implications. If it is political science, if it is social research, then they must go for the social implications or policy implications. In theoretical implications, you must write about how you are going to contribute the body of knowledge through your research. What exactly you contribute to that theory, whether you challenge a theory or you support a theory. You need to write down in detail. Implications means how your findings of the study help managers or the policymakers. You need to elaborate it in implications. Then you must go for the limitation. In limitation you write about what are the limitations you identify in your research. Maybe it's a data collection, maybe the scope of the study, maybe generalization is a limitation in your study. You can identify and write down. Then future research scope, this is very important. Here you as a scholar write down what exactly the future researcher can do with your research. What scope you left for them, and how the scholar or the future scholar can move forward with your research. So in this way you can write down or you can report your synopsis, but this is not the standard format. But these are the very important elements you must include while you are reporting your synopsis. So I think you understand, and you must remember all these important elements while reporting the synopsis. So thank you so much, and I hope you like this video. And if you like it, then you must share it with your co-scholars or your guide, and kindly subscribe our channel, and stay tuned with us for this kind of research video. Thank you.